Hi, everyone. I'm Patrick from Guild of Imagination. Each week, I meet with one of our guild masters to introduce you to the fantastic people who make our programs such a supportive and creative space for kids. Today, I'm here with Aidan Shea to chat about what he loves about working with kids in our D&D and VR programs. Hey, Shay, or hey, Aidan, how are you?
I'm good, how about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I've done a couple of these now, and it's still like weird to kind of like go through the beginning portion of it, but
Mhm.
uh, yeah, I'm excited to kind of chat and find out a little bit about what you do in our VR program specifically, because we've talked to a couple people about D&D, but this will be cool to discuss VR.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
cool. So I guess to start, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what ended up bringing you to Guild of Imagination?
All right, yeah. Well, I am just a person who loves like all things media. So like YouTube videos, like video editing, photography, literally any creative medium, I love. And like I want to eventually get into game design stuff, but along with that came the love of games as a medium. So I've been playing games for as long as I can remember. Probably like the first console I ever had was the original Wii, and from there I just played tons and tons of games. And now to this day, like I play games literally every single day. That's like my favorite pastime. And what's better than being able to do that and also create safe spaces for kids? And that's like exactly where Guild Imagination is, being able to play VR games and not only offer them as a service of like, hey, kids get to come have fun playing one of their favorite games, but they also get to do it in a safe and constructive environment. Like that, I love that. And that's like the moment that I saw the posting for Guild Imagination being able to do that as a job, I was like shaking with excitement of being able to come do it. So like I literally ran with my phone, like applying as I was telling people about it. Like I was so excited.
I think actually you I if I remember correctly, I think I like saw your application come through, and then immediately after that, you like sent me a message
Mhm.
on Indeed to like, hey, I'm like really excited about this, and I was like, oh, I think I should interview this person.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
uh,
I knew instantaneously when I saw the job listing. I was like, that's for me for sure.
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And it's super important that piece about I also love VR, and it's been kind of like a dream for me, like since I was real little, like back in the Virtual Boy Nintendo days. But over the years, it was always kind of like it thought like it could like be a thing. And even back in like the Samsung Gear VR, do you remember that? Like the
I
first time
do.
I put that on, it was like I was blown away when I first put that on, and
Hmm.
and then like it kind of like faded out, and I feel like a lot of people tried out the Gear VR or like that VR that you put your phone in, right? That's what I'm talking
Hmm.
about.
Yeah.
And like that was like it was like kind of like a wow thing, but then it just kind of was like, it you can look around and that's cool, but there wasn't really anything else. You can't like move in it. There's no games or anything like that.
Hmm.
And so when I got a Quest, I was like, that was like the fulfillment of like what I thought VR was going to be since I was like 10 years old. And I was
Hmm.
like, wow, this is incredible. This is so cool. But being able to play these games and see kids kind of like grow with that and teach them how to be great people in a digital environment is super cool and absolutely. So I appreciate that quite a bit. So kind of like going from that, what is something that you love about working with kids in the our VR programs specifically?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I talked about it a little bit in the intro section there, but just being able to offer a safe space that's not like this really toxic environment that public lobbies are for pretty much any game at this point, but especially VR. Something about VR like lets a lot of people kind of be the worst that they can be, and it's very unfortunate. But being able to have a space where like that stuff can be taken out and everyone who is there is interested in not having that kind of environment, it's really really nice, and being able to offer that is super 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 nice and important to me, especially with a lot of experience being in those environments. And that's why I don't play online games very much. I don't talk to people in online games because of that reason. So just getting to see that and also see kids' passions for like VR games and the stuff that they enjoy and getting to talk to them literally every single week about that kind of stuff and see their progression is just wonderful. Like that's the thing that makes this be more than a job to me. Like this is a passion.
Yeah, I love that. You've been with us now for almost 2 years, right? With
Mhm.
Guild of Imagination, and so you probably, I'm sure on your end you see like, you have your different clubs, and you've got kids that have probably been with you for almost the entire time that you've been running these things, right? Like
Mhm.
they stick with you, and it is so cool to kind of see like that progression of like when they first come in, and then you start to kind of get to know them, and they become friends, right? Like you're there every week, and you're chatting with them, you're hanging out, you're playing these games, you're teaching them, you're modeling for them, and it is like really such a special thing. And it's hard to like put it into words or make people understand how that feels, on a day-to-day basis. But awesome. So going off of that, can you share an example of a skill that you've seen kids develop in your sessions, and how you think it benefits them outside of gaming?
Yeah, of course. I think that the biggest skill that I've seen develop is social skills by far. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages of VR, in general, is just being able to have like a social presence that is something that you can't have in regular gaming. And getting to be in an environment with people and getting to like feel that level of like hanging out kind of thing. Um, and seeing those social skills develop, is like the biggest thing that I've had, because I've had some learners who have really not wanted to talk to anybody, not wanted to be involved with anybody, and
Hmm.
especially one learner I know specifically, um, has gone from like absolutely not wanting to socialize to suddenly being so happy and wanting to meet kids all the time and wanting to have the social life that they previously didn't really think about at all. And seeing that, that's like the thing that drives the passion for me, is the fact that that social connection can happen in VR, in ways that is only really possible if you're physically present with each other. And it's just awesome. So I think VR is like one of the biggest tools to be able to help develop those social skills in ways that just regular online stuff can't.
Yeah, what do you think it is? That's really interesting. And I think that when people think of like social club games, right? Like kids are in these social clubs. I see actually one of our platforms does some advertising for our Gorilla Tag club,
Mhm.
and I see a lot of comments on Facebook on there around that club specifically. Um, and a lot of, there's some people that are on there, and they're kind of like, well, why does this exist, like why can't they just go play the game, right? Like and so I don't think that there's a lot of people don't really realize like, oh, when I'm in VR with these other kids, like it kind of feels like we're there together, right? There's like a presence there, but even more than that, like, yeah, you get to kind of practice being social, and it's in a safe environment. What would actually? I know this is kind of like impromptu question, but what would you, if you saw that comment on a Facebook post, right? Like, why do we need this specific club for this? Why can't my kid just go play this game? What would you say to that?
I think that again, it kind of comes down to the type of environment that's offered. Um, because yes, you can kind of have that social presence, and there are some people who do find that online. Um, but you have to be very, very intentional about that. And it's also very easy to fall in with the wrong people in those kind of environments, because you obviously don't have that physical space. So anyone can present anything about themselves online. And even though you have like this more personal feel to it, it still can be something that someone's presenting and not really be that authentic way. That these clubs are much more grounded in like offering that very real kind of tangible, what's the word for it? I guess environment, for lack of a better term. And it's a way that it allows for a much safer and more comfortable way to develop those social skills, and to find people online that you have something in common with, where you're not just kind of like jumping out into other people who already have established things going on, and then there's that dynamic.
Yeah, and there's also that is true, right? Like you being there as, the game master is super important, right? Especially like new kids come into that club,
Mhm.
like helping them feel welcome, and they may have tried a public server in one of these games prior to joining this, right? And
Mhm.
and sometimes kids and parents don't really understand. Like when you go into one of those public servers, yeah, like anything kind of go, you don't know who's there, right? And
Mhm.
there's a lot said, unfortunately, in those servers that can be hurtful to people, and so this is a way to kind of um, give kids a way to play their favorite games, and to also do it in a supervised environment, right? Where we can kind of guide them and say, if you hear something in one of your clubs, maybe a kid says something that they heard in a public server or something like that, and it just isn't very kind. You have the opportunity to be like, hey, that probably didn't make so and so feel that good, right? Like you have that capability to kind of like have that conversation right then and there live, which I think is super important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and on top of that, it also adds to the fact that I can be there to actually help them understand on a personal level, like why that is behavior that shouldn't be done, right? Like you can tell them day in and day out, you shouldn't do this, but unless you provide a reason that they're going to understand and explain it to them, then it's not really going to make sense, and they're not going to actually follow it because they want to. They're going to follow it because, oh, this is a rule that I can't do. It's like they won't personally feel like they should behave better. They will just be like, oh, I can't behave that way, so I'm not going to. That kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Um, cool. Thanks for kind of getting into that with me a little bit,
Mhm.
because I do think it's important. Um, and cool. So um, let me see here. I guess last question. Well, actually, before we get into that, one last kind of follow up. We kind of talked about like we run these social clubs right now in VR with these different apps, but we have been recently, you and me and another game master Ray, uh, we've been talking about um, doing a little bit more in VR. And
Mhm.
so, what are some of your like, what are some things that you're excited about for the future of what we can kind of like bring to these kids and what they can do in VR and what we can help them learn?
I think the thing that I'm most excited about is being able to have like an educational environment where you can basically hand the tools over to kids who may want to create things for themselves or create worlds that they can experience, like game development and stuff like that. Obviously, that's a huge passion, like I talked about for me, and being able to hand that kind of basic understanding
Oh,
of
oh no.
VR and something that
Uh,
will.
Aiden,
Oh,
hold on. Sorry.
am I
Let's
lagging
just
out?
back up a little bit. Let's back up a little
Yeah.
bit. You kind of like froze up for a second.
Oh no.
Uh, just go back about 30 seconds, give or take a little bit.
Okay, I'll read the question off again so I can just start right from there.
I guess what I was saying was like,
Or what was the question?
what are you most, what are some things that you're excited about, like other than just social clubs, in VR that we're thinking about bringing to Guild of Imagination in the future?
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things for me is the ability to potentially offer like this educational environment where we can teach and hand over the tools pretty much to create your own worlds, right? To be able to not only obviously have like that social interaction, but to then be able to take your creativity and bring it to life in a world that's unlike pretty much anything else. Like VR offers the ability to make whatever you want happen, and I think that that is like one of the most valuable parts of VR is that you can just take whatever's in your head and create a actual reality out of it, which well, a virtual reality for, to follow the name, um, and be able to experience that. And by offering something where we can teach like minor game development skills to get kids started and bring them into this world of like, hey, I can actually do this, right?
Yeah.
I've been given the skills to start my journey on creating this world that I have in my head that I want to see a reality in some form or way. And being able to offer something like that, like a jumping point to get into that, especially with my personal investment in the game industry, like I love to the idea of games. I have so many games that I want to make myself in VR. That being able to offer that to others would be a dream.
Yeah, that is a great point, and I'm super excited for that too. I know for me personally, I've always kind of wanted to create worlds. Like I love storytelling. And really early on it was writing for me. Like when I was a little kid, I had, I think my aunt had a typewriter back then. And so I remember like typing away on the typewriter. But that kind of morphed into, I kind of found D&D early, but I didn't have anybody to play with. But I was super excited because like, oh, there's all this like lore and worlds I can kind of just make up, right? And so I was excited about that. And then I even explored, like possibly going into directing or filmmaking, and things kind of took a turn for me from there. But that's always kind of been like, oh, I wish I could like create this world that I have in my mind, right? And now with game development. We do that with D&D here at Guild of Imagination, right? Like we're building those worlds, but being able to create a virtual world that you can actually then go and walk around in, that's really special. That's like up here, right, for me. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, last question here, and then I'll let you go. But that Guild of Imagination, the most important thing for me is creating safe and inclusive spaces for the kids that are in our clubs. Um, how would you say that you are able to do that for the kids that join your clubs?
Yeah. Well, obviously, my position is part of moderating these spaces and making sure that everyone is on the same page of we're trying to be a non-toxic environment. We're trying to everyone here is for the same reason, right? They all want to have fun. They all want to socialize in a safe place. Like that's one of the biggest things that I hear a lot is that a lot of these learners have been in public lobbies and they're like, man, public lobbies are really terrible. I want a place where I don't have to worry about that. And they come here and then I'm in charge of making sure that that place stays that way. So if anyone is starting to lean into that toxic behavior or they're starting to bully or anything like that, I'm there that I can step in and make sure that, hey, that's not all right. We shouldn't be doing that, and help provide that perspective that, hey, we're all here for the same reason, and be able to teach on a level that's not just, oh, this rule is here and you can't cross that line, but more of to get on a actual level with them and talk like, hey, this is why that's not okay, and imagine if it was you feeling that way and all this kind of stuff, and be able to talk to them and teach them on a deeper level about why they should be nice to each other, and then I feel like that gradually will spread out as it goes on, and then they'll take that lesson and maybe potentially have someone else learn it, um, but just being able to be there and step in if it's necessary, and otherwise make sure that everyone's having fun, is why, or the way that I keep it safe.
Very cool. Yeah, I love all of that, and um, I just want to thank you because I've seen a lot of feedback over the last, almost 2 years now, from parents and what they have to say about your clubs and how you run your clubs. So thank you for being here and being part of Guild Imagination. I deeply appreciate it, and I'm sure that all of our parents and kids do as well. So thank you very much, Aidan.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for taking the time to do this little interview with me. I love getting to talk about this stuff, so I'd go another 20 minutes if we had it.
Very cool. And for everybody watching, thank you so much for watching today. If you haven't yet, you can like us over on YouTube, or check out guildofimagination.com and see some of the different VR clubs that we have listed up there. And we hope to go on a quest with you soon. So thanks again, Aidan. Thank you all out there, and we'll see you next time.
All right, see you.
Bye.